Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to be creating the styling for our calculator using CSS. So we'll be using a combination of external CSS and inline CSS. So this is what the calculator looks like at the moment. So by the time we're done with this lecture, it should look a little bit prettier. So this is my text editor and this is my style sheet where we will implement the external styling for the calculator. The way I'm going to structure this lecture is to add a chunk of code at a time and then explain it to you. Okay, I have added some code from line 1 to line 10. So let me run through this. Some of these you may already know. The line 1 here, I've got input. Input, this is known as the selector. So you must have something that you want to do something to. For example, if you're going to have a haircut, your hair will be the selector. And then you have to tell the barber what to do to the hair. So CSS works in the same way. The input here is the selector, and the items in blue here, this on the items on the left of the colon is known as the property. The property is what we want to apply to the selector, and the values outside the colon here is what we want to have. For example, I want the width, which is a property of the input, to be 150 pixels wide. Okay, so you separate the property from the value with a colon, and then you end with a semicolon. Without a semicolon, it will not work. So make sure you end with a semicolon once you've finished. The height, I've set it to that. The font size, which is the size of the text, I've set it to this. The border radius is what gives it a bit of rounded corner. So this is the border radius property, and I've set it to 10 pixels. These values, feel free to play around with them so that you can see how they work. The beauty of browser development is that you can see what the result of what you're developing straight away. Okay, the margin, I've given it 10 pixels. Margin refers to the space outside. Say for example, you've got a box, so the space outside is known as a margin, while the space inside is known as padding. So where you've got with the margin, there's usually 4 corners. You've got the top, the right, the bottom, and the left. That's how the styling is applied. The way I remember it is by using the word trouble and then taking out the vowels, which are the O's. That leaves you with top, right, bottom, left. So when you have just the one value specified, it will use that value on all the 4 corners, like top, right, bottom, left. The background color, I've set it to this. I've used hex color, hexadecimal colors. You can also use the name of the color if you know it. For example, this means black, so I could use black instead of that. And then the color, this color here refers to the color of the text. So this is white in hexa values, and then border style is none. So I don't want any shadow or anything on the borders. So this is a styling for the input. The input basically is the, this is the styling for the input tag. I've added some more code here from line 12 to 24. Line 12 here, I've got an ID here. You identify an ID with the hashtag. So ID here is my form. So this form here, these are the styling I have applied to it. I don't need that. This is just a comment. So if you want to write a comment on on a CSS page, this is how you implement a comment. So anything that you've got a comment on will not reflect on the styling. Okay, so comments are quite good. You can use them for troubleshooting or trying things out. So this ID here, this is the styling I'm giving to the ID. I want the margin on the left to be 225 pixels. So what I'm saying is that from the left, I want it to move 225 pixels. And then from the top, I want it to drop down 20 pixels. That's what that means. And then this here is the styling for the H1 tag, which is the heading tag. Again, the text align. I want the text to be centered. I've given it a font size of 80 pixels. That's how big I want it to be. And the margin, I've said from the right, I want it to move 150 pixels. And from the top, I want it to drop 20 pixels. So let's save that and see what it all looks like at the moment. So this is our calculator. If I refresh, this is what you can see is looking a little bit prettier. Okay, so this is what it looks like at the moment with the styling we have used. Next, we are going to use some inline styling. That means we're going to go inside the HTML document and apply the styling in line with the actual tag. Okay, so I am on the actual HTML document, which is the index.html here, and on line 17, which is the actual input for the display, which is the screen that will display the results of the calculator. I have attached some inline styling. So this is inside the actual tag itself. I have added a style tag. So you use the style as an attribute. So the actual style becomes an attribute, and the value will become the property and the values for that input tag. So this input tag here, I've given it a width of 675 pixels. I've given a height of that. The text aligned to be centered. That means any text that it displays, I want it to be centered. I've given it a background color of this, and this break tag here basically creates a space underneath it. So if I save that and refresh, you should see the display should be blue now. You can see here, so it's now blue. So this is what we have just applied styling to. I have added some more inline styling inside the HTML document. So on line 21 here, I want the buttons for the operators. That means the plus, the minus, the equals, the times, and the division. I want them to all have different colors. So that's the styling I've implemented. Line 21 here, notice I've used the style here as an attribute, and then the value equals to the properties. The property, I want a style, and then the value for the property. So the background color here, basically I've set the background color for the plus. I've set the background color on line 25 for the minus, and on line 29 for the times, on line 31 for the C, which is the clear function that will clear the screen, and on line 33 for the division. So I've set that to green. So I'll save that, and if I launch the browser, you should see the difference. There you go. So you can see all the operators have different background colors, and also I've made the C here, given it a different background. So this is what will clear, you can use to clear the values. So if I press on the buttons, you can see nothing is happening at the moment. The JavaScript will create the functionality for that. So for this lecture, we are done. The styling of the calculator is ready. In the next lecture, we'll implement the JavaScript to make the buttons actually work and perform some calculation. Take care and bye for now.